Alright, I guess I'm restarting this video 3 times, so I wasn't really feeling the direwolf thing yet because I just don't want to accept the reality that now somehow I'm living through both The Handmaid's Tale and Jurassic Park at the same time in the same year. And then speaking of Jurassic Park, there's a new Jurassic Park movie coming out, and it looks kind of lackluster. It's a very Scarlett Johansson Jurassic Park. And the hot thing about that new movie is it's directed by Gareth Edwards, a man who has directed nothing but really good movies. Now, when I think about the movies directed by him, I guess I really start to appreciate Gareth Edwards now, and then I want to review the movie The Creator. That movie was super good. But then I discover some quirky things that distract me. I want to talk about that instead. I fall into a black hole, realizing that I had completely confused Gareth Edwards for David Ayer. I guess the reason why my brain had combined the two of them together is that both of them, I guess, have similar vibes in making movies, that they like making movies about comics and sci-fi, but they usually approach them from this similar military point of view. Like Godzilla was cool, but Gareth Edwards' Godzilla is what if the army had to fight Godzilla? And come to think of it, Jurassic Park, the new one he's making, seems to be the same bullshit. Jurassic Park is cool, but what if the army had to fight Jurassic Park? And maybe I confused them both because they both have 4-syllable names. Anyway, so now let's focus on Gareth Edwards. Who is he? Why is he a complete fluke of a person? I don't understand how a man just comes out of nowhere and immediately gets delivered nothing but slam dunk movies, so I start looking into his record. He started off with this indie movie called Monsters. I've never seen it, but it's apparently free to watch on streaming. After Monsters, he lands Godzilla. Godzilla's good enough. After Godzilla, he lands Rogue One, a Star Wars story, which to this day I think holds up as the only decent post-Disney Star Wars movie. Then he makes this movie The Creator, an original brilliant film, and after that he just gets handed nothing but the finest shrimp and prime ribs of movie IP to work with. And now he's about to make Jurassic Park. That one, I don't know, looks iffy to me, but maybe he'll surprise me on that one. So I look into his backstory. He does have a career before all this. He got started doing visual effects for documentaries, and he built up a record of being a really good VFX guy. Kind of similar to Yamazaki when I really compare them both. Hey, I do visual effects for documentaries too. Maybe I should be inspired by this guy. Alright, all that behind me, I decided to check out his first movie, Monsters, and see what the big deal was. Why did this guy become so big in a single movie? The big deal about this movie is it's a movie about random alien space monsters attacking the American Southwest, specifically Texas and Mexico. And yeah, so in this movie, 2 American journalists have to perilously, illegally cross the American-Mexican border into America, but it's on hard mode because they also have to dodge these alien octopuses. Alright, so I'm going to review this movie, and I'll let you guys know up front, this turned out to be one of the most clever, damn low-budget movies I've ever seen. It had a lot of underwhelming payoffs almost constantly, which I realized that some of Gareth Edwards' movies also had, but I can't deny it was clever as hell. Alright, so the movie starts off with a Star Wars-esque opening paragraph that somehow aliens took over half the country, and with this paragraph I can instantly see how this man landed a Star Wars movie right away. And wow, the movie also immediately deals with army men fighting the monsters. The man definitely has an army kind of type. And okay, yeah, I'm 30 seconds into this movie and I can fully see the brilliance of here. They shot this first scene with GoPros like it's real war footage to hide the fact it's a low-budget film, and then the film starts with this definite cheap sci-fi channel giant octopus, but because it's viewed on this grainy Iraq war camcorder, I want to say it looks 30% less fake than it otherwise would be. So yeah, Gareth Edwards, never fucking around, I see. This movie comes in strong right off the bat. It almost feels like he remade J.J. Abrams' Cloverfield, but did it a million times more competently with a fraction of its original budget, which is clever. But then he also said in Mexico, and goddamn, the whole thing, even in the first couple of minutes, just oozes cleverness. So we get introduced to our 2 main characters. The main character, I never got his name. He's just a sleazy journalist. He's not handsome. He's supposed to be suave, but he's overall kind of a scuzzbucket. He picks up this random girl to go with him who's a cute blonde. She's his boss's daughter in short shorts. She has a broken arm. I don't think they ever properly explain why. I'm pretty sure just touring the slums in Mexico being like, hey, the reason this building in Mexico is so bad is because of aliens. And anyway, so yeah, the 2 of them are going to go on this long road trip adventure back to America. And this is kind of an allegory for illegal aliens seeking into the country, except they're not illegal aliens, they're American citizens, but they still have to sneak into the country because they have to deal with these illegal space aliens. Ah, see what Gareth Edwards did there? It's like he's undercutting the alien stereotype by flipping it and giving you space aliens. Ugh, I'm barely 7 minutes into this, but the cleverness is like so constant, I'm like choking on it. Holy fuck, this guy really is a genius, isn't he? This is definitely the cleverest low-budget movie I've seen in a long-ass time. So they ride this train through the desert, they travel around Mexico for a while. The first half hour of this movie is just a long tour of Mexico, constantly blaming anything inherently wrong with Mexico on space aliens. They pass the occasional CGI wreck tank, the occasional CGI helicopter. I want to say the CGI here is almost 90% good, but sometimes there's just a little something off in the lighting that gives it away, especially with the close-up shots. They eventually get to a ferry crossing, but surprise, the ferry is a hilarious $5,000. And if they don't use the ferry, then they have to cross into alien-infected Mexico. Now, the heroine starts acting dumber suddenly. It seems like they're trying to build up a romance between her and the reporter. And this is immediately undercut by him having some sort of a secret family on his cell phone that he immediately lies and hides about. And the female character in this movie is really weird because she straight up will act suddenly dumber in any of the scenes where she's supposed to look attractive. She'll just be like, gee golly, I don't know how to tie my shoes, even though she's supposed to be this guy's translator. He makes a pass at her about 5 minutes later, but she fully shoots him down. So then I guess he immediately hooks up with a random stranger, which she sees and takes full offense at. Then in another twist, the hookup stranger steals their passports. So I guess they lose their $5,000 boat ticket here. It somehow expires and then they have to pay the jerk guy like another $10,000 to take them through the alien attack zone. I'm constantly struck by the weirdness of this movie because the movie is constantly saying Mexico is bad, but don't worry, it's only bad because aliens destroyed it. But if you just think about the fact that the aliens aren't real, then it's just saying that Mexico is bad because most of this movie is just showing default Mexico. Like, it was clever the first 10 times they said it, but they say it like constantly. And by the 20th time, it's just feeling like they're just straight up saying outright that Mexico is a bad place to live. So they ride up the river in a riverboat. Once again, we see a lot of ruins that are implied to be caused by aliens, even though they're really just like, I don't know, flood damage or like buildings that fell in the river. We see a lot of references to gas masks in the inclusion zone. I'm not sure what the deal is with that. It seems like maybe Gareth just had like a gas mask fetishization. The journalist eventually comes clean about the weird relationship status that he has a kid with a lady, but the lady took his kid and they're not married. So once that situation is cleaned up, the immediate will they won't they tension instantly resumes. The riverboat gets attacked by a goddamn blurry Loch Ness monster, which is so fucking clever. Anyway, it ends up just being a boat that was upside down. That's a twist. The movie has good cinematography. There's another amazing gotcha moment where you think they're about to be attacked by gangsters, but the gangsters end up being cool. And then you think the aliens are coming, but it's actually just like a herd of cows. You know what? My standards for this movie are too high. I keep expecting it's going to surprise me, and it keeps really, really laying me down. We then obviously get some irony that the U.S. built a border wall between Mexico, and it was entirely constructed to keep out space aliens. They then describe the aliens as these giant ambivalent octopuses that are enraged by the presence of airplanes and that apparently they wouldn't attack anyone if just people didn't have airplanes. Then the gun guys reveal that the octopuses like laid a bunch of mushroom eggs on these trees. They totally just like look at the eggs and don't do anything with them. But considering that these aliens are like devastating the earth, maybe you should be like harvesting the eggs or like setting them on fire or something. It feels like a massive like liability to just leave these eggs untouched. Finally, about an hour into the movie, after so many cop-outs and fake downs, we finally get our last real octopus battle in the last third of the movie. I guess the gas masks are there because the octopuses just like fart gas at everybody, and that's like how they attack. I'm honestly kind of let down that the octopuses aren't a little bit more practical because they look good on the CGI when you see them in the far away shots, but in the close-up shots, they look super fake, especially on the tentacles because they just couldn't match the lighting on the tentacles to the real shots. And that's so stupid because they could have just like bought some rubber tentacles, and I feel like the movie quality will have like gone up by like 20 points. So anyway, then all the Mexicans die fighting the octopuses, and the movie gets ultra slow after that. The two characters walk through the jungle like endlessly. They pass all these dead Mexicans. They continue on foot walking through the jungle. They eventually randomly end up at a Mayan pyramids, and like any obnoxious American tourist, they immediately climb on top of it, which is totally illegal and disrespectful, and some lady just got arrested in real life for doing that. They apparently see the border wall from the pyramid, which is insanely developed in this universe. It's like 40 stories tall, and it looks like a big hydroelectric dam. Anyway, my suspension of disbelief starts checking in at this point because somehow they walk from the middle of Mexico to like Corpus Christi, Texas in like 5 minutes, and they like manage to fully cross the border, and then they're in Texas. Texas has been destroyed by the aliens too. Once again, genius low budget filmmaking here. When they get to the destroyed part of Texas, it's just like the Hurricane Katrina disaster area. And yeah, then the movie is just like a slideshow of like everything in the South that sucks and then blaming it on the alien. Oh my God, they have Whataburger here. It was aliens. Then finally they get to like this big dead octopus in Texas. Once again, disappointed that they didn't use practical effects for this one tentacle that appears on screen with the characters, because that tentacle was like solely like some N64 CGI. Then they randomly come across this hobo woman who ends up just being absolutely insane. And this scene is played with absolute horror. They act like she's going to be possessed or infected or something, but she just ends up going like ooga booga and walking away like a monkey. So actually, that reminds me, there was this plot hole that said the octopuses could infect humans, but this is never shown on screen. This was like the only time they were building up to it. I guess the octopuses just actually only affect trees. Anyway, so they're walking again, once again at a superhuman rate of progress, walking down the highway at 80 miles per hour, and then they end up at an abandoned Texaco with the lights still on. Now, this is where the movie starts to fucking suck, and it's sad because this is actually the climax. So at the climax, they just arrive at this gas station and proceed to sit at the gas station doing nothing for a half hour, playing on their phones and eating Cheetos, until finally like another octopus comes up and starts sneaking up on them. So the octopus grabs onto the gas station and starts touching it inappropriately. This scene looks good from the outside, but on the inside, once again, there's more fake CG tentacles that just don't quite match the lighting of the shot. Then the octopus walks away like a spider, and its walking animation looks fake as hell. Part of this looks like they were doing it so they could linger on certain parts of it long enough for it to look real, but they do the opposite. They linger on certain parts too long and it looks fake. I guess two octopus monsters show up at the same time and they start having like sex on top of the gas station. Weird climax because it's totally the Muto scene from Godzilla all over again, but we've got Godzilla killing them for being so offensive, so they just leave peacefully without doing anything bad, and it's stupid. The army shows up, the two leads finally kiss, and then they immediately get like swept into like bags by the army. And it ends there, which is kind of a funny place to end it. Not the worst ending I've ever seen. It's hard for me to judge this movie because like overall, I found this movie to be an interesting allegory for illegal aliens. And the movie started off being super fucking clever. Like it was probably the most goddamn clever movie I've seen in like a minute, but then it just doesn't really deliver on anything it promises. On the other hand, if I'm going to be super critical about it, it was a hell of a lot of nothing, a hell of a lot of two people speed walking super fast through Mexico into Texas. And okay, I gotta know this. So the movie seems to imply they travel from like around Torreon in Mexico to around Corpus Christi in Texas. That's like a 7-day walk. And that's a 7-day walk if you don't sleep. Like, even if I pretend they got close to the border, then it's a 5-day walk with no sleep. So it's probably more like 10 days if they even slept. Like, I guess I definitely saw some days go by while they were walking. But yeah, if I count the nights and the days and the sunsets all as like different days, they definitely walked like thousands of miles in like a 3-day time period. And that totally bothered me because like, that's just not possible. There was like no downtime in between. They just speed walked fucking like faster than a jumbo jet. I guess the big thing that gets me about this movie is there were so many moments where they were like, oh, here come the aliens. Oh, here comes something cool. And that's just like, it's a cow. It's the Loch Ness Monster. It's a piece of garbage. Like sometimes it actually is the aliens, but sometimes even when it is the aliens still just stand there and do nothing. I guess I was supposed to learn some sort of lesson from this movie that illegal space aliens weren't the real danger. The real danger was flying planes over them because that pissed them off, I guess. There's a lot of weird, incorrect lessons you can take from this movie. It feels like the main two characters only hooked up at the end out of boredom. Thank God the military broke them up. And there's definitely a lot of weird racist ways you can twist the narrative around too. Like, Monsters is one of those weird movies because it seems like it's about racism, but it maybe goes so far into racism that it becomes racist itself. Because, like, honestly, like, half the movie is just this girl being like, Mexico is so awful. Mexico is so dirty. Mexico has no jobs. And then the main character is like, because of the aliens, right? That's why Mexico is like that. Like, it also does feel like the Mexicans in this movie are being used as props ultimately, because there's not a single good Mexican in this entire movie. Every single Mexican in this movie is either a villain or a body bag that the aliens get to massacre. If I had to remake this movie, I don't know, I probably would have at least like added like a third wheel Mexican hero to just like set the record straight and not make the main characters insufferable tourists. Like, I'm impressed with this movie that it accomplished nothing, but it also like annoyed me with the amount of nothingness to it. Apparently this movie made so much money that there was an even lower budget sequel set in like Iraq that wasn't made by Gareth Edwards, but that one apparently failed, so I'm not going to watch it. I guess this does kind of make an interesting movie to watch side by side with the Gareth Edwards Godzilla, because considering he made Godzilla right after this, I feel like Godzilla is everything that this movie failed to live up to being. So the fact he did make Godzilla right after this movie feels like Godzilla is like the apology for this movie in some ways. I guess they do kind of make great double features with each other is another way to put it. Although then again, thinking back to the Gareth Edwards Godzilla, that itself also had a lot of horrible bait and twists and a lot of like cop-outs as well. So at least Godzilla had like a good payoff at the end. But I'm still mad at the Gareth Edwards Godzilla for like the way they like sold like Bryan Cranston being like the main character in the movie, and then he died in like the first 10 minutes. So overall, would I recommend Monsters or not? I feel like if you're an indie filmmaker, if you're someone trying to make it in the film industry and trying to figure out how Gareth Edwards made it, I feel like this is a clever fucking movie to take in and learn some lessons from. But if you're just like a casual like film fan who's trying to find a decent monster movie, I don't know if this one's really it, because too much of this movie is just two people walking through Mexico, and too much of the melodrama is just like, wow, Mexico sucks. So yeah, that's Monsters, the movie that starred Gareth Edwards' career. Watch it at your own risk, I guess. All right, I still want to review The Creator. Should I review The Creator? Leave a comment. All right, thanks guys, later.